Death Wobble. That's when the steering wheel starts shaking violently, usually after hitting a bump. It's when the front end starts shifting side to side because of worn end links, track bar bushings, and other reasons. It can happen on many different types of vehicles, mostly four-wheel drive pickups. And I'm going to show you how to fix this. On this particular vehicle, we're looking at a second-gen Dodge, and the track bar end and bushing. These commonly wear out, and this can lead to death wobble as well as other handling problems. And we're going to install what's called a Luke's link, where it makes this end rebuildable and more sturdy than the OEM design. First thing we're going to do, remove the cotter pin on the castle nut. Now we're going to remove the castle nut. And then give it a few good whacks with a hammer. Take a pry bar and loosen it up. Moving on to the other end, take an impact and get that bolt out of there. Now with the track bar on the bench, you can see how loose this one was. Now it wasn't terrible because I couldn't feel a lot of play or clunking when I did this, but it shouldn't move this easily. I was mainly doing this because the boot had a tear in it. I was afraid water and grit had gotten in there and was going to accelerate the wear. Okay, now the point of no return, where we got to grind off the back side. This little lip on the stock bar, so then we can push the stud out the back so we can get it out of there, get the parts out, and move on to the next step, and you'll see why in just a moment. Okay, I lied. Had a little bit of a technical difficulty. My camera battery died, and I did not get any of the footage of using a hammer to beat on this to get these two pieces apart, but here's what it would look like in picture form. Okay, now it's time to fit the cage that holds all the parts for the updated link system here. And because we ground off this, it might just fit on its own, but as you can see here, I need to do a little bit more work. Something that's not mentioned in the instructions is taking off this little ring that housed the old boot. I didn't realize this at the beginning, but I'm taking it off now. Now it's time to test fit the parts and check the preload. Use these three little washers they give you. They're also for the adjustment if needed. They're 3/16 of an inch all stacked up, or roughly thereabout. Should be able to fit them in there, but this measurement doesn't have to be precise according to the instructions. Mine was right on. Now let's assemble it. Put the cage on. Now put the ball stud in, and I pre-greased it, but we're going to put grease in later. Put this nylon cap and the washer, the big washer behind it. Put the grease seal in, that just fits right into the bar. And we put this rubber spring, and then the large nut, it houses right inside there and then screws into the cage part and compresses the whole thing. And just snug it up hand tight for now, and then get a 1/2-inch dry ratchet to begin to turn it and tighten it up until it bottoms out. And then you can kind of check and see how tight it is by moving the stud around on the end, and it should take some force to move it around. The last thing is to put on this big rubber washer as the grease seal for the top of the stud. Now it's time to put the cotter pin in. You need to move the big nut so you can get it in one of the three holes. Again, I had some technical difficulties, but it doesn't matter. Any way that you can get the other end of the bushing out is fine. I used a drill and drilled the rubber out and then hammered the center out, so then I could take a small Dremel wheel and notch the thin little sleeve, because it has to come out to put the new poly bushing in, and just ground a groove all the way in, going just to the end of the bar. And here I am just using a chisel to chisel it out. Get it out any way that you can. It doesn't matter if you nick the inside of there, because the poly bushing is going to take up the slack. Just don't try to damage it too much, obviously. And the new poly bushing just slides in, slick as that. Use a little WD-40 or something, aids in installation. Now the installation is just the reverse of how you took it out. If the bar doesn't immediately line up, have a friend turn the wheels just ever so slightly, and that will move the frame of the pickup because the track bar isn't installed, so you can line up the stud, push it up in there, put your castle nut on, tighten her down, and then put the other end in on the other side of the pickup, and there you go. Now, I've had this in for a little while, took it for a test drive, and man, did it make a difference in just the handling and such. I wasn't experiencing the death wobble, but I didn't want to experience it. I'd been in vehicles that have experienced it, so I didn't want that to happen to me. But this is definitely a worthwhile upgrade. I'm going to do a follow-up or a long-term review after many tens of thousands of miles, so that's going to be maybe a few years, and see how it holds up. But it is rebuildable, it is adjustable, so if it does seem like it's getting loosened up, you can just tighten it up, and it's greasable. So anyway, I hope this helped people out there who were wondering about this upgrade or this product, and I think it's a good one. The only thing I can say bad about it, and it's not really about the kit, but it's about the ball stud that you might be starting with. If yours is really worn and the inner race is really worn because you have to reuse those two parts that are in the bar, this might not work for you. So it's highly dependent on how bad yours is. But I imagine that's a fringe case. If your bar is just wandering around in there, then obviously your parts might not be usable for it. So anyway, subscribe, like this video, share it around the forums to show people how do you install this. I think it will answer a lot of questions. I hope it does, and I had fun making the video. Thanks.